Okay, Ma, good evening, all of you. So we'll start the session. So today we are going to discuss about sets, functions, and relations, which are related to the GATE syllabus. Okay. Okay. So first we'll start with set. What is a set? What are the different properties for the set? So later on we can move other topics. So first coming to set means a set is an ordered collection of unordered collection of different elements. If the ordered elements is changed or any element is set is repeated, it does not make any changes in the set. Okay, that means just simply what we can say is it is a collection of elements. If there is any element is repeated, no need to represent that. No need of any order. Just we can represent all those elements as one single object. So examples are set of all positive integers, okay, set of all planets in the solar system, set of all states in India, set of all the lowercase letters of the alphabet. So like that, we can consider example for the set. Next here, whenever we are discussing about the set, so we may come across one of the property called as epsilon symbol, so which is used to refer the member of any particular set. So we are going to use this epsilon symbol to represent if any element is belonging to any particular set. So then we are going to use this belongs to symbol. Suppose if any element is not belonging to any of that particular set, so then no need to represent. So we are going to does not belongs to. Okay, we are going to use that particular symbol. And set can be represented in two different ways, roster or tabular form, and other method is set builder notation. So we can use any one of the method to represent the set. So but most of the time we are going to use so this set builder notation or roster form. Roster form we are going to use most of the time. So coming to roster form. So how we are going to represent that is, so just we are going to list out all the elements which are belonging to that set, and those elements are represented within the set like this. Okay, within the flower braces like this, we are going to represent that. So then that is called as a roster form. That is the simplest method of representing the set. So if you see there set of vowels, okay, in English alphabet, so we are representing like this A E I O U, and set of odd numbers which are less than 10, we are representing like this. So I can follow any one of the method to represent that particular set of elements. And set builder notation, so that is another method which we are going to use for representing that particular set of elements. So in this method what we are going to do here is, okay, so I think it is not changing. Okay, let me try once. So I can use this set builder notation. So where what we can do there is we are going to represent the set of elements by specifying the property for that. So I can go to use like this. So let us, if you consider here the set A E I O U. So that is alphabets we can represent like this. A equal to X such that X is a vowel in the alphabet. Similarly, the odd numbers which are less than 10 can be represented like this. X such that X is less than 10 and X modulo divided by 2 not equal to 0. So like that we can go to represent this particular set. So next we have different types of sets are there. The different types of sets are represented. We are representing like this. Okay. So first thing is finite set. Okay, finite set means a set which contains finite number of definite number of elements is called as a finite set. So if you have suppose example is there, so that example shows that some 70 to 50, whatever the numbers we are considering. So then those numbers are limited within that range. So 20 elements will be there. So that is a finite set. Infinite set means if it is not possible to tell the total number of elements, so then it is called as a infinite set. So I can go to use like this. So this is infinite set. Next, subset. So given two sets, if elements of one set is belonging to another set, so then what we can say is one of the set is belonging to another set, that is technically we can represent it as subset. So a set is X is a subset of Y. So we'll represent like this: X is subset or equal to Y. So like this we are going to represent this one. So if every element of X is an element of set Y, so then we can say that X is subset or equal to Y. Let us see the example here. We have X values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Y is 1, 2. Now we can say that Y is subset of X. Why? Because the elements which are present in set Y is available in set X also. Similarly, let us, if you see here, X equal to 1, 2, 3, Y equal to 1, 2, 3. Here the element of the elements which are there in the set Y is all elements are there within the set X. So here also what we can say is, so X is subset or equal to Y, or we can say Y is subset or equal to X. Both the cases are true here. But what is the thing is, in the second case, in the second example, we cannot say that it is not a proper subset. Why? Because both the sets are having same number of elements. So next, proper subset means proper subset can be defined as a subset but not equal to the given set. That means it should be a subset, but the number of elements in both the sets should not be equal. So then we can say that, so that is a proper subset. So a set X is a proper set of set Y if every element of X is an element of set Y, and this is cardinality of X. The number of elements in set X should be less than or equal less than the number of elements in the set Y. So then it is called as a proper subset. So see the example here. So we have here X equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Y equal to 1, 2. Now 1 and 2 elements are there in the set X. So that Y is subset to X, and see that the cardinality of set Y is what? Only 2. Cardinality of set X is 6. So that it is following the above condition, so that we can say that, so it is following proper subset property. So next one is universal subset. Sorry, universal set. The set which contains all the elements is called as a universal set. So we are representing with the symbol U or mu. Okay, so example, universal set means the set of animals on the earth, the set of mammals on the next a set of mammals is subset of U, set of all fishes is subset of U, and so on. We can say like that. A set of animals will be the universal set. Set of mammals will be subset to universal set. Similarly, set of fishes that are also belongs to that particular animal set. So like that, I can consider this example. So next, empty set or null set. An empty set contains no elements. So the number of elements in the empty set is finite. That is, empty set is finite set. Okay, that means no elements will be there. If you see the cardinality for the set, then it will be 0. Let us see this example. X such that X belongs to N, and 7 less than X less than 8. So 7 and 8 between there is no natural numbers are there, so that it belongs to empty set empty set. So that is 5. Next, singleton set or unit set. So singleton set or unit set contains only one element, so it is denoted by S. Okay, we can represent like this. So if any set is having only one element, then that is called as singleton set or unit set. And we can consider example this. So X such that X belongs to N, 7 less than X less than 9. So between 7 and 9 we have only one natural number, that is 8. so that the set contains only one element, so that it is called as a singleton set or unit set. Next, equal set. So if two sets contains the same elements, then they are said to be equal. Okay, so if two sets are having same elements in any order, then they can say that they are equal sets. Let us see the example here. A equal to 1 to 6, B equal to 6 1 2. Now, even the order may be different, both the sets are having same number of elements. Now we can say that both the sets are equal sets. So next one, equivalent set. So equivalent means if the cardinality of the two sets are same, then they are called as equivalent sets. Previously, we discussed that is equal sets. This is equivalent sets. Here, no need to consider with respect to the elements what they have. So, with respect to the number of elements, if both the sets are equal, then I can say that they are equivalent sets. That is A equal to 1 to 6, B equal to 16, 17, 22. So, cardinality of both the sets are equal, so that A and B are said to be equivalent sets. Next, disjoint sets. So two sets A and B are called disjoint sets if they don't have even one element in common. So then they are called as a disjoint sets. Simply you can say that if there is no common element between any two sets, then I can say that that is disjoint set. So if you see this property with respect to this disjoint set property, so n of A union B becomes equal to n of A plus n of B only. And this is an example. So A equal to 1 to 6, B equal to 7 9 14. Okay, so now if you see there, if you observe the sets A and B, there is no common element between set A and set B. So that what we can say there, these two sets are disjoint sets. So next we'll discuss about different operations on a set. Okay. So first operation, set union. So union of two sets, set A and set B, denoted by A union B, is the set of elements which are in A as well as in B, and both A and B. So if you consider the representation for that, A union B equal to X, such that X belongs to A or X belongs to B, or it may belongs to both set A and set B. So then I can go to consider those set of elements as union of two sets. Let us A equal to 10, 11, 12, 13, B equal to 13, 14, 15. So if you consider A union B, so then it will contain all the elements from set A and set B. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so if any element is repeated, okay, it will not be considered, it will be considered only one time. Okay, suppose if you see 13 is repeated in set A as well as set B, no need to write two times, only one time is represented here. And this is the Venn diagram representation for that set union operation. So it will covers both set A, set B, every part. And a set intersection. So that intersection of set A and set B is the set of elements which are in both A and B. Okay, so if you combine two sets, so if they have the same, that is what we can say, both the sets are having some common element, then those common elements will be represented in set intersection. That means A intersection B equal to X, such that X belongs to A and X belongs to B. So like that I can represent this one. And if you see here, A equal to 11, 12, 13, B equal 13, 14, 15, and A intersection B equal to, so the set, the element which is common in both the sets is 13, so that is represented here. And here this is the Venn diagram representation. So the area which is common to both set A, set B, which is represented in yellow color, belongs to set intersection operation. So next one, set difference or relative complement. This is another important operation. So it is denoted by A minus B. It is a set of elements which are only in A but not in B. So we are going to consider the set of elements which is coming from only set A, and we are not going to consider elements from set B. So then that is called as a set difference or relative complement. And A minus B equal to X, such that X belongs to A and X does not belongs to B. That means we are considering the elements only from set A and we are not considering the elements from set B. So that is called as a set difference. And here if you see this is A minus B, and here this diagram shows B minus A. Okay, so if you the set A where it belongs to only so part say A only. If it is belong to B, then it will not be shaded here. So this is A minus B. Similarly, this is B minus A. And here I can consider one example: A equal to 10, 11, 12, 13, B equal to 13, 14, 15. Now A minus B means we'll consider the elements only from set A. So that is a 10, 11, 12 only. And B minus A means we'll consider the elements only from set B, that is 14, 15. 13 is not considered. Why? Because 13 is available in set A only. Set A also. So if you observe here A minus B and B minus A property, the result what we are getting, A minus B is not equal to B minus A. Always it will be true for any given sets. And the complement of a set, so the complement of a set is the set of elements which are not in set A. So with respect to universal set, the complement of set will be identified. So we are going to consider the elements which are not in set A, but they are in universal set. Then that is called as a complement of the given set. So if you see this, x belongs to x such that x does not belongs to A and x belongs to universal set. So if you want to represent this mathematically, A complement equal to U minus universal set minus A. Okay, I can represent like this also. And this is the Venn diagram representation which is related to complement of a set. So next, so just 1 minute. Okay, ma. So the next operation is Cartesian product or cross product. We may also it may also be called as Cartesian product or cross product. So the Cartesian product of n number of sets a1, a2, an is denoted by a1 into a2 into an, and it can be defined as all possible ordered pairs from first set x1, that is elements from the set 1, set 2, set 3, like that we can consider that one. So x1 will be from set 1, x2 will be from set 2, x3 will be from set 3, like that we'll consider all possible combinations from that given n number of sets. Let us see example here. if you consider A equal to A comma B, B equal to 1, 2. So then A cross B or A Cartesian product with B is given by A into 1, next A into 2. Similarly, B into 1, B into 2. Similarly, you can find out B cross A. So it will be 1 comma A, 1 comma B, 2 comma A, 2 comma B. So like that, I can find out the cross product or Cartesian product between the two given sets. So next one, the power set, very important one. The power set of a set is the set of all subsets of S, including the empty set. So if you write all possible subsets for the given set, and if you combine all those sets as one particular set, so then it is called as a power set. So normally the power set will be how many number of sets will be there in the power set. We can identify with the help of the cardinality that of the given set. Okay, so the cardinality of power set of a given set is cardinality is given by 2 power n, where that n represents the number of elements in that particular set. Suppose if set is having 4 elements, okay, so then the all possible subsets will be 2 power 4, which will be equal to 16. So starting with the empty set, set element with 1, set elements with 2, set elements with 3 and 4. So if you combine all these sets as one set, so then that is going to be called as a power set. So next one, important one, inclusion and exclusion principle with respect to the set. So what it says is inclusion and exclusion principle is a counting technique which generalizes a familiar method of obtaining number of elements in the union of two finite sets. So what's the purpose of this principle is, if you want to identify how many number of elements will be there, if you are going to find that is a, if you are going to union combine two sets with a finite number of elements, normally we can represent symbolically like this. Number of elements in A and B equal to, so there is n of A plus n of B minus n of A intersection B. Okay, so based on this we can easily identify this. The same can be extended to with the three variables or three sets also. So A union B union C equal to n of A union B union C equal to n of A plus n of B plus n of C minus n of A intersection B minus n of B intersection C minus n of A intersection C plus n of A intersection B intersection C. So like this, we can generalize the formula based on the number of sets what we have there. So first, if you observe here, we have to write the elements from the set with one elements. Okay, so there is n of A, n of B, n of C. Okay, not one elements. We are considering element from set A, element from set B, set C. Next, we'll get a minus alternatively. After that, again, we'll get plus alternatively. So like that, we can find out this inclusion and exclusion principle. So this particular inclusion exclusion principle we can represent with the help of small diagram to understand how that particular values will come. So this is the example which will be one of the application of your inclusion and exclusion principle. Here if you see there, the problem is given like this. How many natural numbers are there, that is which are n less than or equal to 1000 are not divisible by any of 2 or 3. Okay, given the statement like this, so we need to find out the total number of natural numbers which are less than or equal to 1000, and they should not divisible by either 2 or 3. So this will be, we can here we can define uh, with respect to our inclusion and exclusion principle, we can solve this. So we need to find two sets, set A which are divisible by, which are not divisible by 2, and another set which are not divisible by 3. So if you see this A2, so the numbers which are not divisible by 2, so then it will be given by total number of elements is 1000 divided by 2, so that will get 500. Similarly, A3 which are not divisible by 3 less than or equal to 1000, so that 1000 divided by 3, 333. So A2 intersection A3, that means the numbers which are divisible by either 2 or 3. So that, sorry, 2 and 3, not 2 or 3, 2 and 3. So 1000 divided by 2 into 3, which will be equal to 166. So then, if you want to find out the number of elements which are divisible with the 2 or 3, that is given by n of A2 union A3. So which is given by number of elements in A2 plus number of elements in A3 minus number of elements in A2 intersection A3. So which is given by 667. So this is the number which are divisible by 2 or 3. But we need the numbers which are not divisible by 2 or 3. So that if you subtract the 667 from the total number of elements, so then we'll get 333. So this is the number of total number of elements which are not divisible by 2 or 3 less than or equal to 1000. So like that, this inclusion and exclusion principle can be applied for mathematical problems like this. So next one, we will move to relation. Okay. So first of all, what is a relation? So if you see there, the set of ordered pairs defines a binary relation, which is called simply a relation. So we already find out the Cartesian product. So that Cartesian product contains set of ordered pairs. So if that Cartesian product ordered pair will have only two elements, so element from set 1, element from set 2, then it is called as a binary relation. Okay. So if R is a relation, a particular ordered pair, say xy belongs to R, can be written as x related with y and can be read it as x is in relation R to y. So if we will consider the ordered pair from that particular relation, so now what we can say is we can identify the number of elements, sorry, we can define or we can represent the relation between the two elements x related with y. So let us see example a equal to 5 comma 6 and b equal to x comma y. So then 5x 5 they are related 5 comma x 5 comma y 6 comma x and 6 comma y. So it is a relation from a to b, you can give that. So next, with respect to this relation, we have some terminology. So like this domain, range, we can see the here. So first coming to the domain. So if you consider any relation, let S be any relation, the domain of the relation S is defined as the set of all first elements of the ordered pairs that belongs to S and it is denoted by D of S. Okay. So in the ordered pair, whatever the first elements are there, first values are there. If you are going to group all those values as one set, so then that is going to be called as a domain. Okay, in x comma y, if it is a ordered pair, so whatever the elements that are there in the place of x, if you are going to group all those values as set, then it is called as a domain. Similarly, range. The range of the relation S is defined as the set of all second and elements of the ordered pairs that belongs to S and it is denoted by R of S. R of S is equal to y such that x comma y. So that means the second elements, whatever we have here, so that will be considered as a set, then it is going to be called as a range. Let us see here, we can consider the example for this. A equal to 3, 4, B equal to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we can define a relation from A to B and also we can identify what is the domain and what is the range for this one. So first of all, if you define the relation R equal to, we have like this 2, 3, next 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7. Similarly, 3, 3, sorry, 3, 2, sorry, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, 3, 6, like that we'll get the elements. But they define the relation like this based on some property 2, 4, 2, 6, 3, 3, 3, 6, 4, 4, 4. So now if this is the relation that divided, so here if they given the relation is if A divides B. So if you consider the elements from set A, set B, so that should follow this A divides B relation. So according to that, the values are 2, comma 4, 2, comma 6, 3, comma 3, 3, comma 6, and 4, comma 4. So now if you find domain and range for this 2, 3, 4, that is the domain, and range is 4, 6, 3, 4, 6 is the range for this one. So like that, we can find out domain and range for the given relation. So let us a relation. If you are going to define, if you define any relation, so for that relation we can find out some we can identify some of the properties. So these are very important properties. Based on this only we'll get the problems. Okay. So the when the properties are like this: a reflexive relation, symmetric relation, transitive relation, irreflexive relation, antisymmetric relation, like this. So reflexive means if you have the ordered pair in the relation, if you have the ordered pair in the form of x comma x, that means if x is related with the same element x in another set, then we can say that that is a reflexive relation. So symmetric relation means, so if you have the relation from x to y, so then if you have then we need to have the relation from y to x. So then I can say that that is a symmetric relation. Next, coming to the transitive relation, if x is related to y and y is related to z, then we need to have the relation from x to z. So then it is called as a transitive relation. And coming to irreflexive relation, so irreflexive relation means, so if x is not related with x, okay, so then it is called as a irreflexive relation. Or x comma x does not belongs to your relation, that is a given set R, then it is also, it may also be called as a irreflexive relation, opposite to the reflexive relation. Okay, reflexive means x comma x should belongs to R, irreflexive means x comma x should not belongs to R, so then it is called as a irreflexive relation. And antisymmetric relation means, so if we have the relation from x to y and y to z, okay, sorry, x to y and y is related to x, then x will be equal to y. That means, so if we have a relation from x to y and y to x, then what happens is, so then when it is possible is when both x and y are equal to same, then only it will be possible. So that is what we can say that antisymmetric relation. So next one, regarding based on these properties of the solution, I may consider a small example. Let us see here, given s equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10 and the relation R on s where x comma y such that x plus y equal to 10, then find out what are the properties that are followed by the relation. So if you see there 1 to 10, they are the elements and the relation we need to define based on the property x plus y equal to 10. So now based on that relation, so if you consider values from the set S1 to 10, so it will follow like this: 1 comma 9, 9 comma 1, 2 comma 8, 8 comma 2, 3 comma 7, 7 comma 3, like this. So that means, so if you add the ordered page elements, whatever value we have, 1 9 8 2 3 7 4 6 5 5, will get 10. So that by following this relation, we define this, we identify the ordered pairs like this. Now if you want to check for the properties, which properties are it is followed, okay, so if you see here, for any x belongs to s and x comma x does not belongs to R, that means it is following. So if you want to if you see the properties what we have previously, reflexive property is there. So reflexive means x comma x should belongs to R. So here we have only 5 comma 5. For other elements we don't have that particular thing, so 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3, like that the ordered pairs are not in the relation, so that we can say that it is not following, so reflexive property. Okay, and coming to irreflexive property, so irreflexive also it is not following. Why? Because 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3, like that up to 10 comma 10 it should not contain in the relation, but here we have the 5 comma 5, so that again it is not following irreflexive property. Both reflexive and irreflexive properties are not followed. And coming to the other property, suppose if you're checking for antisymmetric, suppose 1 comma 9 is belongs to R, 9 comma 1 is belongs to R. Suppose if both are belongs to R means 1 should be equal to 9, but practically it is not possible, so that it is also not following antisymmetric property. Coming to the transitive relation, so 1 comma 9, 9 comma 1 means 1 comma 1 should be there in the relation, but that element is also not there. So like that, it is not also, it is not following transitive property also. Okay, but symmetric may be considered, it may be following symmetric property. Okay, 1 comma 9, 9 comma 1, 2 comma 8, 8 comma 2, 3 comma 7, 7 comma 3, 4 6, 6 4, and 5 5. So this property belongs to symmetric, so that it is following symmetric property, but antisymmetric is not following one. So that is the proper how we can check for the properties followed by a relation for the given set of example for that particular relation. Next one, relation matrix. Okay, so given any relation that can be represented in different ways, one of the method is called as a relation matrix. So a relation R from a finite set X to finite set Y can be represented by a matrix called as a relation matrix. So given any relation that can be represented in the relation matrix. So let us see that A equal to X1, X2, B equal to Y1, Y2. They are containing m number and n number of elements respectively. So then if you are going to define the relation matrix mr, so which will contain the elements from both the set a and set b based on the property they are given. Suppose x1 comma y1 or xi yj belongs to r means in the relation matrix I will write 1. If xi comma yj does not belongs to r means I will write it as 0. Okay, so based on this I am going to consider or build that particular relation matrix. So let us see here, let a equal to 1 2 3 4, b equal to b1 b2 b3. Now I can build a relation and determine the matrix for that particular relation. So here they given that 1 comma b2, 1 comma b3, 3 comma b2, 4 comma b1, like this. Now in the rows I can write a 1 2 3 4, and in the column I can write b1 b2 b3. And if you have the 1 comma b2, so 1 comma b2 means, so here we have the 1, 1 comma b3, here we have 1, and 1 comma b1, the element is not there in the relation, so that it will be 0. Next 2, with 2 no ordered pair is starting here, so that the second row becomes 0. Next with 3 comma b2, so that it will be 1, and 3 comma b1, 3 comma b3 both are 0. So like that I can build that particular relation matrix. And here if you see what is the advantage of this relation matrix. Okay, so let us see, if you consider the relation a is given like this, and for that the matrix what is the, we build a relation matrix like this. So from this relation matrix, what properties that we can identify here is, okay, so if your relation is reflexive then all diagonal elements must be 1. So if you, from the relation matrix we can see that if all the elements are 1, so then diagonal elements are 1, then I can say that it is following reflexive property. And if your relation is symmetric, then the relation matrix is symmetric. Okay, so if matrix is symmetric matrix, then I can say that it is follow it is the relation matrix also symmetric, it is following symmetric property. That means 1 comma 3, if you have 1, 3 comma 1 will be 1. So like that I can consider that. Next, similar, if a relation is anti-symmetric, then it matrix is such that if rij equal to 1, then rj equal to 0 for I is not equal to j. So the same thing we can apply for this one. Okay, so anti-symmetric means I comma j equal to 1 means j comma I should be equal to 0. So like that I can consider the properties, I can observe the properties from the relation matrix. Next, graph of the relation. So this is another method of representing the relation in the form of a graph. So a relation can also be represented by drawing a graph. So the graph is called as a relation graph. The elements of X are represented by points or circles called nodes. These nodes are called as the vertices. And here, while drawing the graph, so in the whatever the elements are that are there in the set, they are represented as the nodes. And if xi comma xj belongs to R, then we connect those nodes xi and xj by means of an arc and put an arrow on the R in the direction from xi to xj. This is called an edge. Suppose if you have an ordered pair xi comma xj, so then I will draw a line from xi to xj, so which will be called as a edge in that particular graph. Let us see the example here. X equal to 1 2 3 4, and the relation is given by r equal to x comma y such that x is greater than y. I can draw the graph for this one. So here they given the property that x should be greater than y, so that first element should always be greater than second element, 4 comma 1. So by following the property the values are like this: 4 comma 1, 4 comma 3, 4 comma 2, 3 comma 1, 3 comma 2, 2 comma 1. Okay, so the graph related to this one is like this. Okay, so first we can easily construct the relation matrix. Similarly I can go to construct the relation graph. Okay, 4 comma 1, so from 4 to 1 I can create an edge. 4 comma 2, similarly 4 comma 2, 4 comma 3, Coming to 3, 3 comma 2, 3 comma 1, 3 comma 4 will not be there. Why? Because it is not following that particular property. So like that, I can create a relation for the given graph. Okay, and based on the graph, that is a relation graph what we constructed, we may observe different properties for that one. So how can we observe that? So let us see here. If a relation is reflexive, then there must be a loop at each node. On the other hand, if each relation is irreflexive, then there is no loop at any node. So if you draw the relation graph, if you observe loop at every node, then I can say that it is following reflexive property. If there is no loop at every node, then I can say that it is not following reflexive property, so that it will following irreflexive property. So like that I can say about this one. So next one, the second property. So if a relation is a symmetric and if one node is connected to the another, then there must be a return arc from the second node to first node. That means if 1 comma 2, if we have the edge, then 2 comma 1 will 1 also we have the edge. 1 comma 3, if you have the edge, some 3 comma 1 will have the edge. So then we can say that, so it is following symmetric property. And if there is no, if suppose 1 comma 2 we have the edge, from 2 comma 1 we don't have the edge means, so then it is following anti-symmetric property. So here this diagram follows that particular rule, so that it is a symmetric relation. And coming to this one, it is not following that property, it is going to be called as, it is following the anti-symmetric property. So next, the fourth property that we can observe is, if a relation is transitive, then the situation is not simple. Okay, that means we cannot easily observe this one. Okay, but up to some extent we can identify whether it is following transitive property or not. It is better to go with the ordered pairs what we have there in that particular set. Okay, suppose if you have the relation like this, 1 comma 2, 1 comma 3, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 3, 3 comma 3, I cannot say exactly the graph should contain like this, so that then only it will following the transitive property. Okay, so this is what about the four properties how we can observe from the relation of the graph. So next one, equivalence relations. Okay. So we'll see what this equivalence relation. A relation R in a set X is called as an equivalence relation if it is a reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. Okay. So if you given any relation on a particular set of elements, and if you are checking for these three properties, that is reflexive property, symmetric property, and transitive property, and if it is following those three properties, then it is called as a equivalence relation. Okay, so here the examples are like this: equality of numbers on a set of real numbers, equality of subsets of a universal set. So they will follow these three properties, so that they may be called as a equivalence relation. So let us see example how we are going to check manually. Let us x equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and the relation R is defined like this, 1, 1, 1, 4, so like that. Now for this I can draw relation matrix, and then I can draw relation graph also. So from the graph and matrix we can clearly say that it is following reflexive, symmetric, and transitive property, so that I can say that it is a transitive, so that is a equivalence relation. So like that we can observe this one. Next, congruence relation. Now let us see what is this congruence relation. So let I denote the set of all positive integers, and let m be a positive integer. For x belongs to I and y belongs to I, define R as R is equal to x comma y such that x minus y is divisible by m. So if this is the property for that one, for the given ordered pairs in that particular relation, so then it is called as a congruence relation. So here, what is the meaning of this x minus y divided by m, which is equivalent to the statement that both x and y have the same remainder when each is divided by m. Okay, so x divided by m and y divided by m, so both should result same result. Okay, then I can say that I can write like this: x minus y is divisible by m. So if the ordered pairs in that relation is following like that property, then that relation is called as congruence relation. That is, in this case, this particular x minus y modulo divisible by m, I can represent like this. Okay, so x is equal to y mod divided mod m. Okay, so that is x equal to y modulo m. So this relation we will call it as a congruence modulo relation. Let us see the example here. 83 equals to 13 modulo 5. That means 83 minus 13 equal to 70, which is divisible by 5. Okay, so here this relation, congruence modulo relation, also follows reflexive, symmetric, and transitive property. So then the relation, what we can finally say that congruence modulo relation is also an equivalence relation. Next one, compatibility relation. Okay, so we'll see when this compatible when the relation is said to be compatible to relation. So a relation R in X is said to be compatible to relation if it is following reflexive symmetric property. So only two properties should be followed by the relation, that is reflexive and symmetric. Then the relation is said to be compatibility relation. So clearly all equivalence relations are compatibility relations. Why? Because equivalence relation means transitive property also needed to follow. But if you follow only these two properties, so then it is called as a compatibility relation. That is, if you consider set x equal to ball, bed, dog, let, egg, and the relation we are defining on this set is given by x related y if when they are related is if they have some common letter. So between these words, if they have some common letter, so then I can build the relation. So based on that particular relation, if I'm going to identify the words which are having common letter, so then I can build the relation like this. That is x1 ball, x2 bed, x3 dog, x4 let, x5 is egg. Now if you build the relation like this, so we'll get the relation graph like this. From this we can easily observe that it is following reflexive and symmetric property, so that I can say that it this particular set with the property common letter between the words is following the reflexive and symmetric property, so that it is called as a compatibility relation. So next, transitive closure. So related to this relation, we have one important operation called as a transitive closure. So let X be any finite set on R be the relation on the set X. So then the relation R plus is called as a transitive closure, which is given by R union R2 union R3 Rn like this. So what is R1 R2? Let us see this example. Okay, we are going to find out Cartesian product between the set R only. Okay, so let us see the example. R equal to 1 2 2 3 3 3 on the set 1 2 3. Then the transitive closure is given by, first of all, R means 1 2 2 3 3 3. R square, we can say that R to the power 2. So that is R circle R. So 1 2 2 3 3 3 1 2 2 3 3 3. So we'll get the ordered pair. So if you find out the Cartesian product, we'll get the elements like this. Okay, so here 1 2, here 2 3. So that 1 3. Similarly 1 2, 1 2. Okay, so 1 2 2 only will get 2 3. That's all. Next 2 3 3 3 will get 2 3. 3 3 3 3 again will get 3 3. So similarly R3 means R square circle R. So like that, if you find out all up to what step is, we should not get a more number of ordered pairs. Okay, if you see there, R3 and R4 both are having same set of ordered pairs. Up to that point step, we need to do the process. Okay, so if you combine all these results, so then that is called as a transitive closure. So that is R plus equal to R union R square union R cube like that. Okay, so this is what we can call it as a transitive closure operation. Next, partial ordering or partial order set. Okay, so what is this partial order set? So a binary relation R in a set P is called as partial order relation or partial ordering. Okay, if and only if it is a reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive property. So just you consider any binary relation. If it is following reflexive property, anti-symmetric property, and transitive property, so then I can say that it is a partial order relation. Okay, and the set on which this partial order relation is followed is called as partial order relation, partial order set. Okay, set P together with the partial order R is called as a partial order set, or simply we can call it as a poset. So here the relation or is often denoted by the symbol. So less than or equal to, like this symbol, which is different from the usual less than or equal to symbol. We should not write like this. Okay. So it is not same as the less than or equal to, but the symbol may be represent like this. So poset or partial order set, we can call that one. Let us see the example here. Show that the relation greater than or equal to is a partial ordering on the set of integers. Okay, let Z be the set of all integers and the relation R is greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal on that property, we are building that particular relation ordered pairs for the given relation. So since A greater than or equal to A for every integer A, so then we can say that it is following reflexive property. Similarly, if you consider any two integers, if A is related to B is related to A, that means A greater than or equal to B and B greater than or equal to A, that means A will be equal to B. So then I can say that it is following anti-symmetric property. Similarly, if A, B, C be any three integers, so A related to B, B related to C means then A will be related to C. Now, according to this greater than or equal to relation, A greater than or equal to B, B greater than or equal to C means A will be greater than or equal to C. So then it is following transitive property. Now, if you combine these three properties, that is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive property, finally what we can say that it is a partial. It is following these three properties, so that it is a partial order set. Okay. So the next one has a diagram. So to represent your partial order diagram, partial order set in the form of an what we can say diagrammatic representation, we can follow this as a diagram. By using that, we can easily observe the properties. Okay. So a partial order on a set P can be represented by means of a diagram known as a diagram. Okay. So partial order set can be represented in a diagram called as a diagram, by which we can easily observe the properties. In a assay diagram, each element is represented by a small circle or dot. So like this. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the elements. They can be represented with small dot like this. Next, the circle for x belongs to P is drawn below the circle for y belongs to P. If x less than y, and line is drawn between x and y if y covers x. That means when we can draw a line from x to y, that means if x is related with y, partial orderly related with y, then only we'll draw the line from x to y. That means y will be placed above, x will be placed below that particular line. So that is less than means that is a partial order related. Okay. Similarly, vice versa is not possible. We are not going to do vice versa process. Okay. That is the thing. Suppose let us consider the let p equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and less than or equal to be the relation. So then the Hasse diagram, by following that partial order set property, I can construct like this. Okay, this is a important one. And here are the examples how we are going to construct the Hasse diagram for that one. Let us see here 1, 2, 3, 4. First, you have to identify the ordered pairs in that particular relation by following the property whatever given. So once you identified the ordered pairs, first draw the graph for the relation graph for that one. From the graph, try to remove the loops, self loops, and then we try to remove the edges which will follow transitive property, and try to remove the arrows by placing initial vertex below and terminal vertex above, so that the final result we will call it as a Hasse diagram. Similarly, there is another example. We have x equal to 2, 3, 6, 12, 34, 24, 36, and the relation that is defined is less than or equal to. And we can construct the assay diagram like this. Similarly, for other things also, we can do the, for same examples, we can do other things. This is for the given set, power set problem also, I can construct the assay diagram like this. Okay. So this is about today's session. Okay. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.